Good day, everybody. Thanks for listening to Blue Collar Hockey Talk. Got Scott Feeney here, Wes Atkinson off to the side to here. We are going to be talking Leafs. Thank God we got a win to talk about. We've got the Boston Bruins getting some games pushed back, COVID-19 rearing its ugly face. We got a pair of games. I mean, we got the loss, we got the win, we got this day in hockey history. We're going to talk Anderson, we're going to talk Hyman. Wes, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. You feel so much better after a win, and then they have a break coming up too, which it would have been awful if they lost that game, man, because it would have been another 4 days of hearing about how bad the Leafs are and how much they're choking compared to, like comparing them to older teams and stuff, and like it would have just been tough. But thankfully they played well in these two games, and they actually got a win last night, so that definitely helps the psyche a lot.
I'll tell you, the beat reporters must be thankful they won too, and I mean for us too, buddy, because holy smokes, I didn't want to have to sit here booing about something. That was awesome. Yeah, man. But let's not go into the Leafs right away yet. Let's talk about the Boston Bruins, man. And I say it because they're already having a bit of a tough time, man. And
Yep.
I tell you, they've now got some games pushed back due to COVID. You got David Pastrnak, David Krejci, Jake DeBrusk, Craig Smith. They're all added to the COVID-19 list. This does not help them at all, and it sucks that this has happened.
Yeah, it definitely does, man. And my hot take at the beginning of the season was I said the Boston Bruins were going to miss the playoffs. And for a while there, I looked like an idiot. And they were just cruising in the division. And, they were going to be a lock for the playoffs. And now I'm feeling a little bit better about myself, man. They seem to be a bit of a mess. But who knows, man? Knowing Boston, they'll pull it together and they'll make it to the Final Four somehow, maybe the Cup final. That's just the Boston way of things.
It is. You're probably right. I mean, don't count them out. Hell, the Leafs know not to count them out. I'm not going to go there, but the Boston Bruins, Wes, it's very intriguing, and it's really looking like what you said on your hot take at the beginning of the year. I'm following it, man, and I'm following it close, and I've steadily seen them going down the standings, and now this.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of character on that team. That's why they've been so good for so long. So if there is a group of guys that can actually get through this, I think it is the Boston Bruins. As much as I dislike them,
Yep.
I'll give credit where credit's due. That's just the hockey fan that I am. But it doesn't look good right now.
No. But I definitely think the Boston Bruins of right now remind me of the Detroit Red Wings from, like 10 years ago, where you could just never count them out. Like Detroit made the playoffs like 25 years in a row, whatever that was. They were always consistently just good, and they always were able to figure it out. And that's what Boston is right now. That's how their whole franchise is run. There's accountability, top to bottom, and it's really envious, is what it is.
Hey, man, I actually have never actually drawn a parallel between how Boston's been over the last decade to how Detroit was, let's say, 2 decades ago, or up to not really that long ago, up to over the last 2 decades, I guess I should say. There are a lot of parallels with those two clubs. So you look at how they were made up top to bottom, how they are. Good call. Good call.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's enough about other teams, man. Let's talk about those Leafs. How about we talk about the first game back from the break, man? When they came back in those St. Pat's unis, they looked great. Everyone was like, they're gonna just come out of the gates flying. I turned the game on a little late, and I almost turned it right off. It was already 2-0 Calgary within like 10 minutes of the game starting.
Listen, man, I tell you, I'm with you, okay? It was paramount that Freddie Anderson had a solid game. Now, I'm really curious. Like, were we playing with an injured goalie? I'm not giving him a free pass, but my goodness, like, were we really just playing with the goalie that was able to go in net? Anybody not named Michael Hutchinson? Like, were we at that point? Because it almost feels like that. Like, I'm not going to be a Freddie hater, and I'm not. But fact of the matter is, we had a great defensive game that night. I feel like the last 2 games that we've played now have been good. We'll talk about the second one in a minute. But in that 4-3 loss, we allowed 18 shots, man, 14 saves. And I mean, there were some soft goals, at least one. I'm going to say 2. And that's deflating, man. And it's happened a lot of games lately, where there's those deflating goals. I talk about chemistry and character a lot. Chemistry is something that builds and continues to go, and so does confidence, and so does just that momentum that you can build. And all of that takes a real push on the brakes, when we're letting in these soft goals down 2-0, and I was pretty happy with how the Leafs actually played on an overall manner myself. I don't know about you, Wes. Like, when you're watching that game, how did you see it?
I was I was glad that they were able to push it and come back. Like when they tied it 3-3, I was like, all right, guys, brand new game. Like they should be able to squeeze out like at least a point, which is like a loser's mentality, right? Like to me, like you play to win the game, and they played well enough to me that like they shouldn't have been left empty-handed. But man, when as soon as Tavares took that penalty, I was like, oh, there's our number one penalty kill coming out here, and that's this is gonna be just like soul sucking. What's gonna happen? And it took like 2 seconds, and the Flames scored on the power play, and that to me is crushing as well because like they know that the penalty kill is a problem, and it keeps on being a problem, and it's so annoying to see the same thing happen again and again.
You know what? You're right. You are right. As much as I say I liked how they played their defensive game, our penalty kill is atrocious, man. Like I heard it last night. When, if I'm not mistaken, other teams against us right now, 9 for 17.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's disgusting. Disgusting. I have no other way to put it.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. Is
Buddy,
what it is. Like,
that it sure is.
And it's just like I said, it's soul sucking because, man, at the beginning of the season, like their penalty kill has never been super strong. But last I saw, they're 22nd in the league. Like there's no excuse for that. They need to be pushing it up to at least the top 15, because like you need your penalty kill to be successful, and you need it to be reliable. Like Tavares took a penalty that game, and it wasn't like a goal saving penalty, but man, you can't put pressure on your team to take 0 penalties in every game. Like it's just not going to happen.
I know that's something that has to get shored up. And I mean, people that are going to be like, oh, you got to make a trade to do this. It's like, no, like we've got a lot of talent in house. We've got a lot of smart, like we can do it. We really can. But I guess if you are going to make a trade, that better be in mind, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it is that much of the Achilles heel right now that we can pin a point or two right there. You should be able to kill that penalty when it's that important part of the game. You have fought back to come back 3-3,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take that penalty. My God, you should just be able to tighten ship and just lock it down at least once in a while. And right now, it is not happening. So you're right with that. Big time needs improvement on it. Big time.
Mm-hmm. And the things too about that game, man, the third period, the Leafs did really well coming out, and like they were able to outshoot the Flames like 8-2. There were a couple of posts they hit as well. So the shots on net, I'm sure the ones that the shots towards the net was a bigger number than 8. But man, it just wasn't good enough, man. And you can't rely on getting a goal all the time, because the thing is, we talked about this, the North Division is full of good teams. Calgary is a good team, and even though they're like second worst in the division, they're better than that as a team. Their record is worse than they are. So, man, it wasn't surprising to me that Calgary could shut them down.
Well, what are they? 4 points out of third place too?
Yeah,
like, I mean, like talk about a tight division. I don't have it in front of me, but it's close, and yeah, man. I mean, I think really with me on that game, my focus had to go around. And I mean, I'm not trying to be that guy. And I know that I said, hey, maybe Anderson was hurt, but like, I'm going to go back to that. Like, he needed to play good here. We scored 3 goals. You can't always, you got to win some games 3-2 or 2-0. Like, you need to be able to do stuff like that. And so after the game, I couldn't help it. It's like, okay, so we all know that that Campbell's going to get the start, right? That was just already going to happen. But my gut said, if Campbell can get in that game for the game on Saturday, and maybe we could shift into talking about that here, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
If Campbell could get himself just a solid start, I'm not talking a great start, maybe don't get blown out. I felt like we may see some games get strung together here, because Anderson, there's nothing owed to Anderson. There's no, like, you don't have to coddle him right now. You got to see what you have. Like, we need to know, what do we have in Campbell, and do we want to know that? Does that have anything to do with the trade deadline? Like, if he flops and we're just like, holy smokes, we're spinning tires, got a great team, but our net's a mess. But it doesn't feel that way, does it? Because that game in Calgary, How did Hutchinson do? Or holy smokes, he didn't play and he's never playing again. How did Campbell do?
Campbell did great, man. And I thought he stood his ground where he had to. I thought the Leafs were really good at not allowing grade A scoring chances, and I think that was the annoying thing. Sorry to jump back into our game. The previous game, those goals that went in weren't grade A scoring chances, and sometimes it's not about the best save you make; it's about the timely saves. And it seemed to be that Campbell was there last night just to make those timely saves. Nothing that seemed to be too difficult. And this is me on Monday morning quarterbacking here, but like, it's not like he was stopping breakaway after breakaway or 2-on-1s or anything like that. Like, he just seemed to stand his ground and be confident in what he was doing, and like that shows through the whole team. That like, they have that confidence behind them.
You're 100% right. And I mean, like, right away, I wasn't sending messages through the game, really. I was just trying to. I'm weird when it's when the Leafs are in a losing streak. I start to break habits. Like, I won't talk about the game with anybody while the game's on because I need them to snap the streak. I'm weird, but I couldn't help it when Campbell made that stack pad save. And I mean, it wasn't like, oh my god, it was unbelievable. Like, but it really was cool because I mean, how often do you see a Marty Brodeur or a Grant Fuhr type stack pads coming across? Like, he really launched himself across the net, put those pads up, kicked the. I loved it, man. I loved it. He challenges the shooter. He plays with a passion. He's in the zone right now. But you're 100% right with saying, like, the team really does play. They play really well in front of them. I think they play really well in front of them. I think that I don't know. I don't think they don't play well in front of Anderson because the night before we allowed 18 shots.
I think it's such a weird feeling right now because I sent this on the group chat last night. I was like, the worse Freddie played, the better Campbell was getting, even though Campbell hasn't played in weeks. And it's just reaching back to that memory of when he shut out the Oilers, and it's like the grass is greener on the other side. But I'm like, it's really be careful what you wish for, because like I like Campbell. I like seeing how he plays. I love his interviews, but man, he is not the most healthy guy this season, man. Like, he is on and off the injured reserve, so you always have to be careful. Maybe that's why they're playing better in front of him, is to not let him like injure himself by making some crazy save, going post to post. Who knows what it is, but what I liked about that game last night, man, is look at the guys who scored. Hyman is on the first line. Well, he kind of went up and down the lineup last night, but to me, that was really a playoff style game where your number one, number two lines weren't the best lines on the ice, and they were still able to squeak out a win. Because Calgary, they were focused on 34, man. They didn't make it easy on Matthews at all last night.
No, I'm with you on that. And Matthews, man, like that wrist, I wonder how that wrist is feeling. He's got 2 goals in his last 11 games, just to say. Like, for Matthews standards, that's a bit of a slump, Yep. And the chances that he had, though, like, I mean, he rang one off the post. There was a lot of net. And then there was, on the other side of the net, he had 2 glorious opportunities. I mean, it'll all come good with him. Matthews is the man. We'll see him fist pumping behind the net some more. Yep. I could feel it coming, but I'll tell you, Zach Hyman is a treat to watch right now. And I love it. I mean, we really need to appreciate him over the next couple months. Okay. I hope this man's a Leaf for life, but I'll tell you, there's certain pay grades that we can't get into because our salary is capped and it's tapped. And Hyman feels like he is going from this pay grade to this one. He has quietly had 3 straight seasons. If I heard it correctly, I didn't stat check this. I shouldn't say things on the show without, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. 20 goals, 3 years in a row. And he's got 11 this year on an abbreviated season. I mean, it's funny. He's on pace for 20 again right now in this season. I'm not saying he's going to go get that, but what I am saying is that he is playing like a stud. And if you get a chance, and maybe if I can find the link, I'll post it in the video in the comments below here. Joe Bowen, I was driving home for that part of the game, and he was just talking about Hyman, and it was all live play. So it was a great call because he's like, I love how Hyman, every single shift, he is just giving it his all. He's continuously going to the net. Do you see that, Jim? He is always driving the net, and good things happen. Speaking of which, Hyman has the puck, comes around, drives the net, he scores! Holy Mackinac, right on cue! It was really cool. It was like, perfect timing. It was really neat. You can't make that stuff up.
Yeah, I really wonder where it's going to end up this summer with Hyman because, like, man, how many times have we seen guys like him that aren't the superstars and they move to another team because they've been offered more money? Which, whatever, if you're offered more money, it's your call to take whatever you can get. But at the same time, like, do you want to win? And I don't know what the opportunities are going to be like in other teams. Like, I've heard a team that might go after Hyman, and it makes so much sense. It's Edmonton because they're going to have a ton of cap space open up at the end of this season. I could see them giving Hyman more money than Toronto would think than Toronto would be possible to, right? But the other side of it is too, man. If you look at this Leafs team, the bottom six, they are going to be turning over so much every year. You look at the lineup from last year versus this year versus the year before. The bottom six keeps on turning, and that's the kind of the way it is in the NHL. You pick your core guys, you build around them, and you supplement the rest. So who knows what will happen with Hyman? Like, he is a Toronto guy. He's got his books out. I think again, from me being a armchair quarterback, you're going to get more fame from being in Canada. So I can see how Edmonton would work for him. But do you want to go to Edmonton? Like, look at that franchise. But who knows? It might change this year. But I don't know, man. I'd hate to see him leave.
I would hate it too. He's a heart and soul player, and you need those kind of guys. Dubas has his work cut out for him. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I'm just a fan. I'll give my 2 cents twice a week, right here on Blue Collar Hockey Talk. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad that it's not my call or head on the line for it.
Well, what do you think of Anderson, though? Do you think he's going to start the next game or what? The next game's on Thursday against Ottawa, and I think there's no such thing as a confidence-building game right now. Like, the Leafs don't play well against Ottawa, but they are the last-place team in the division. So does Anderson get that start, hoping that he can play well against the last-place team or worst team in the division and keep him rolling from there? Or do you put Campbell back in and go with the hot hand?
I hope that Campbell's in net on many different fronts. I hope for it for the sake of long-term Anderson, long-term Campbell, long-term Leafs. Like, I want to see Campbell go in the net because right now Anderson is not playing well. He's fighting the puck continuously. I'm not looking for him to regain his form in the game because it's hurting us, man. And it's making we were 6 of 7 losses going into that. And several of those games, I could honestly say if we had better goaltending, we would have won those games, or at least could have, but we couldn't actually say that our goaltender gave us a chance to win on a few of those games. And I don't think that I'm being like over the top, blowing things out of proportion. It just was what it was. Sometimes you got a hot goalie and sometimes you don't. And he's stone cold right now. And in a shortened season where we've said time and time again that every win matters, every single one, that means to me that you can't sit there and wait out Anderson, because what are you waiting it out for? Like, I ask you that because we're not waiting it out for anything that's proven. We know that he can get hot. Hell, I mean, even last year, there's a lot of games where people he can't win game 7s, he can't win or elimination games. A lot of the times, if you take a look at the game before when our back was up against the wall, the only reason why we got to game 7 was because of Anderson standing on his head in one of those prior games. But that's not really what it comes down to. We need those time saves to win the game that you need to win. And I mean, you needed to win game 6. That's great. But you just can't win. You can't go 0-8 in game 7s and have it not mean anything. Now, all I'm saying is that I'm not off the Anderson train. I want Anderson to be sitting on the bench. I want him to be working his balls to the wall. I want Campbell to get a start on Thursday. And if he does well again, I want him to get another one. And I mean this, I want it a 1A, 1B, because then all of a sudden Anderson if you have to be motivated or a fire torch under your ass, he can't get sour. He's not going to become a grumpy guy. He has to play for next year's contract. He has to. Mm-hmm. So the next time he gets on the ice, can you imagine how motivated Anderson would be? I'm not saying Campbell playing Thursday is the end of Anderson, but I am thinking that we're going to watch a hot hand be a 1A, 1B, and maybe Anderson gets the net back, and maybe he gets it back at some point, and if he does, he'll start the playoffs, but we'll still have it where you saw it with Robert Lennon and Fleury last year. I feel like you could see maybe a similar setup.
I think that's that's one way of thinking, man. But I think right now the Leafs are gonna try to ride Anderson because they know that like he has a higher ceiling than Campbell in theory, right? Because Campbell isn't proven and he's been injured this season so much on and off. Like I really see them trying to push Anderson, and like we are still just past the halfway point of the season. It's not like we're just around the corner from playoffs, and that's hard to imagine because the weather's warm. It feels like playoff hockey is coming around. But man, I would bet a lot of money that Anderson is starting the next game, and he is definitely going to start the Saturday night game against Edmonton as well, because it's I just can't see it. I can't see them getting away from him. Like he is your best option, and I think it's just a slump. And like you said, in short season, everything's magnified that much more.
Sure, Wes. Let's make a little bet. Let's
Sure.
do this. So our next recording is Thursday.
Yep.
Okay. The game will be playing while we are recording. All right. So at that point, we will know if it's Anderson or Campbell in net. I will say this. Maybe we could start a little bit of a segment of called Let It Ride and see if we
Okay.
can ever get a bet to be able to let it ride. So where I'm going with this is that I want to start a segment, and this is where the bet goes. The loser pays for the first ticket. It's $2.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a $2 bet. And my thought is then we can make props bets on the games on ProLine, and we'll share it with the crowd here. We'll start with a $2 bet. It'll win, if we win, $8. But then I'd like to just bet the $8 and see if we
Sure.
can just let it ride and see if we can get something fun. Cool?
Sure, man. Sounds good. So yeah, like I said, man, I'm confident that Anderson will be starting the next game in Ottawa, pending injuries. If someone is injured, then with this bet, like we can't go with it because like I'm saying health is number one here.
I am going to make sure that I am eating Campbell's soup for dinner on
There you
Thursday
go.
night to cheer Campbell on.
There you go. That's it, man. And like I want him to do well as well. What else? What else is going on in Leafland? Wasn't it great to see Wayne Simmonds come back for the past few games? Man, he just adds a spark to the Leafs.
You want to see a spark to the Leafs? Talking about the Hyman goal, did you see him go right over to the bench in that high five with Simmonds? Like, don't break his wrist again. You know, like they're just jacked. Yeah, man, he brings the total element to the team. He is blue and white. There are certain players that have the makeup to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. And you either get what I'm saying or you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like Doug Gilmour was beloved. He wasn't here for long, but he was what you want to think of the Toronto Maple Leaf. Wendell Clark, do you know, like Ty Domi. Think about guys that are just absolutely beloved. And we got another one right here.
Yeah, it's true. And like what I think is really important about Simmonds compared to say Thornton and Spezza, like Simmonds isn't a guy that needs to score all the time to keep his confidence up. Like we can see Thornton playing right now. He hasn't scored, he hasn't registered a point in a while, and like he just looks like a 41-year-old guy playing in the NHL. And it must be hard for a guy like that to be like the cheerleader of pushing the other team. But like Simmonds isn't expected to score. He's expected to bring energy. And I think, you know, he can go a few games without scoring, but he is going to do something that's going to just drag the other guys into the game with him.
You're right. You're right. He is, and that's all the character kind of guys. That's what a character guy does. He leads by example, and he does. But not just that. Like you can tell, he expects that from his teammate. You know what I mean? And but the thing is that it's just seems to be contagious, man. Like I love the energy that he brings to the lineup. And you're right. You can feel it. It just is almost like it's a piece that gels it all together. You know, like I love it.
Mm-hmm.
My brother kind of funny story. My brother stayed at Wayne Simmonds' place. Wayne Simmonds wasn't there, but it was in L.A. My brother's best friends with his uncle, and so he got to see what life of an NHL player is like inside of that place. But nonetheless, apparently Wayne Simmonds is quite the class guy. Like he's a really cool cat. So bring on more Wayne Simmonds. Stay healthy, buddy. Keep coming to the lineup. You're getting me excited, and I'm not even on the damn team.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, how about we just move into this day in hockey history, man? This one is crazy. So in '91, Ron Tugnutt made 70 saves to give the Quebec Nordiques a 3-3 tie in the Boston Garden, man. So Tugnutt stopped 17 in the first, 18 in the second, 19 in the third, and then in overtime it was another 12 shots like that he faced. Ray Bourque actually set an NHL record with 19 shots on goal, 70 saves. Crazy.
That is nuts. That is nuts. That is a lot of rubber, man.
In a regular season
that
game
is a
too.
lot of
It's
rubber.
not like a playoff game that had like 4 overtimes or anything. That's just a regular season game.
Can you imagine how in the zone you'd have to be?
Oh.
Like, I mean, like, you know how like when you're doing something and you know that you've gotten the groove, you know, like in just different things. Can you imagine being an NHL goaltender, feeling like you're in that zone? Like, holy smokes, that is star-studded. 70 saves is insanity.
Yeah, that's nuts. Well, here, let's talk about the upcoming game against Ottawa. We did touch on about, you know, who's going to start in net. But, man, like, this is a must-win against the last-place team in the division because they need to start a roll here. Because they're going to be playing Edmonton, who might be the division leaders by next Saturday night.
Yeah, you have to win these games because if you don't, then at the end of the season, when you say, why didn't we win this division? You look no further than how many points did you give the last place team? You know, like they're last place. They can't have a 500 record against the top place team. So no, man, I'm with you. This game, they have to come in there thinking that we have to crush these guys now. Like, and go in there like they are the enemy and mean it. Like this, like if you ever have, like you say, a must-win game, I almost see it as this has to be a statement game. Like this is we are the top of this division, and this is when you got to start to show it. Because if you keep losing games against Ottawa, that just puts those little specks of doubt that we don't need. Yep. So, big game. You're right, huge game, and I expect to see a solid game.
Yeah, I do too, man. I think, you know, the Leafs are going to get a bit more of a break time because I think this is their last like 4-day break between now and the end of the season. So they should rest up, but they should come out flying because the schedule gets pretty tight. I think after this game against Ottawa, they have their last 2 games of the year against Edmonton, short of the playoffs. So
they're huge.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now when these series are going to wrap up, and you're not going to be able to like say catch a team or have a team catch you. So you need to start racking up the points again, man. They just need to do what they did earlier in the season, man. Just go. Don't let losses happen back to back. We've talked about it so much where losses are going to happen. You know, the Leafs are going to get blown out again sometime this season. And like that just happens. It's sport. Sometimes you just don't have your legs, but man, they can't let those games pile up again. And they need to have the hot goalie. Like in Vancouver, you know, Demko stood on ahead and stole points from him, and we were like, yeah, that's a good goalie. And then Winnipeg, and that Hellebuck stole points from them too, and it just kept on rolling and adding up, and it just put them in the spot they're in now, and we can't have that streak happen again.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, thank God. That's why you put those early season points in the bank. That's why you get out to the hot start so that you don't have to play catch up, and you have that bit of a cushion. But we used the cushion up. Now it's gone. It's done. But that team that built the cushion is the team that's here. I firmly believe it. Clean up that penalty kill. I hope to see something starting to turn on that. The law of averages says that it has to turn. Yep. You know, so I think it'll be a great game. I can't wait for it, Wes. I can't. And I if anybody has anything they want us to talk about coming up into this game or while the game's on, like I say, we're recording. When the game's on, just throw something in there. We'll talk. Let's go. Go Leafs, go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that pretty much wraps it up for today, unless you have any last-second comments to add.
I got nothing else here, man. I thank you very much. This was great. Go Leafs, go. I'm glad we're building on a win.
All right, well, if you like what you see and what you hear, like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter at BlueCollarHT, or email us bluecollarhockeytalk@gmail.com. And as we always say, go Leafs, go.